And we are live. Hey, welcome everybody. So, of course, everything went off without a hitch at all, as it normally does. We just click go and we're away and we're here with you. So, as you can see, the men are on top. Now I'm going to behave myself tonight.
I can't get my phone to stay.
I've started already. Look, poor Lena is sailing at the moment, so you know we're on rough. Poor Lena having to rough it in the yacht. There we go. So right, I'm going to pass it over to Lena to start the introduction off, and then we'll go over that way. You've had a few more minutes to breathe from me.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. Oh my gosh. So anyway, you're getting half my head. It's all good. Welcome, Elizabeth. We tried to go live in the Facebook. Sorry. Thank you guys for transitioning with us over here, but we wanted so bad to have tonight, even though our lives I think are spinning. All four of us are in the middle of like tornadoes right now. Seriously, it could not be more chaotic of a day for the four of us, but we're here because we want to be here, and let's face it, we really like each other. So I mean, that's the cool thing. But I wanted to have Elizabeth on because, maybe some of you don't know, she is working with us at Sector Intelligence. I've known Elizabeth. I met her in Virginia Beach, and I'm going to have her share that story. It's a super cool story that involves another friend of ours that I was in martial arts with when I was studying Shorin-ryu, who used to punch me really, really hard. By the way, Elizabeth, he didn't hold back. I'm just going to warn you. But he connected us because he saw this likeness with us, and he literally said to me, "You have to meet this woman. She's just like you." And then when I found out, he said the same thing to Elizabeth, and of course we joined forces, and many years later we're still here. So she works for Sector Intel. She'll be at the SciCon 5i conference in Dallas in September as one of your breakout session speakers. She is
The props.
I love that she's got props. She's awesome. She's a published author and a best-selling published author. So she's going to talk about that. But I wanted her to come on and chat with all of us tonight because she's got this amazing gift and power to connect with people. And you're going to find out from her book why she has that gift, and she shares that in her book as well. But anyway, before I ruin it all, Elizabeth, welcome. I'm so happy you're here.
What an incredible warm welcome. Thank you. Thanks, Robin, Gavin, Lena.
Hello.
Well, let me tell you, you deserve way better. I wish I looked better, but sorry, this is what it is today. I got shark's teeth behind me and
Nice.
nasty hair and whatever.
Transparency is beautiful.
Right? I know. This is it.
Yeah, when she looks that good, when she thinks it's roughing it, Robin, you know, like really.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say it, you know.
Right.
Well, welcome, Elizabeth. I would love for you to introduce yourself to the tribe. I know a lot of people already know you, but introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, and let's segue into that amazing book and just your gift.
So I couldn't get it loaded at the bottom, but the book we're talking about is Collecting True Friends, if it's showing up today.
Yep.
The line that I want everybody to focus on here is be a magnet to those worthy of your time and devotion. And I think that's a good way to start out, because what I realized is before I was even 16, we relocated. My dad was civil service, and we kept moving and moving. And it was a constant, what we call in this generation, a reboot. And every time we got comfortable, we got in a house, things were familiar. I knew my bike routes. I knew who my friends were, bam. So when you're doing that, and a lot of people still are doing that in life right now, you know, they're changing jobs, they're moving in their careers, or they were married to somebody and they promised that they move. We constantly have to adjust. And the whole be a magnet to those that are worthy of your time and devotion is based on the concept that you're not supposed to bring everybody into your world. And that was something that was very hard. I had to learn it a long time ago at a very early age, because, you know, you're desperate to make new friends. You're new to the area. You want to fit in. Of course, you can imagine how well I fit in with this bright mop of red hair, blue eyes, and I'm as pale as snow, right? So I didn't look like anybody. And back then, you know, diversity and inclusion wasn't a thing, you know, so nobody looked like me. So they just made fun of you and they bullied you. I mean, that was just the cool thing to do. It's like, what's wrong with her? Why doesn't she have a tan? Why does she look so strange? So So I had to learn early in the game, and when I started learning that, then I started realizing that there's a power, and when you can pull people in, and that's what I love about this group, the TCG group, and then the sector group that we're in. We've all realized that there is a power in getting the human to human connection, and that's my superhero skill. And Lena, that's why you and I were brought together when our mutual colleagues said, you have got to meet, and when I met you, from the moment I met you, I was like, oh, I can see it, because it was like looking in a mirror. But I also noticed, what were we doing? We were reading each other. So we were reading each other because we were trying to make sure that just because we were introduced, that we were worthy. You know, am I worthy enough to be a good friend to you? Are you worthy to be? Because if you don't get it right, what happens is then you start attracting the wrong people in your life. And then you also wake up one day and you go, where did these people come from? I'm 40 now. And these mates that are in my life and these friends, it's like, wow, they've changed. Or have you changed? And maybe you're not worthy of them anymore. Or maybe they just weren't worthy of you in the beginning. Yeah. That's a long answer to who I am.
There was one thing that Elizabeth did after the first time that we met. So we met up for lunch, and it just blew me over, because I'm like, who does this? Nobody does this anymore, but Elizabeth did it. It was like, I don't know, 5 days after our lunch meet, I get this package in the mail, and it is a thank you card with 2 amazing chocolate brownies. And it just said, hey, I'm so grateful to have had lunch. Just a little thank you. And it was like this amazing decadent chocolate gift. And I was like, wow. Number one, like, just to put that effort in, it just blew my mind, you know? And then I thought, and so I got to admit, Elizabeth over the years has taught me to calm down and just slow the pace a little bit and really cherish the people around you. Because sometimes I move so fast, and I'm like, even tonight when I came on, I'm like, and Robin's like, yeah, but we're all together. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's just, that's what it is. So I think you guys have collected you to help calm me down and just appreciate the good friends that I've collected.
Robin is brilliant like that. I want to say a quick hello to everybody who normally joins us, and to someone who's just come over from Eric's channel. Hi, please hit the subscribe while you're here. It's a little bit different to what we've just been doing with Eric. We've just been discussing legal representation. So this is about making friends, not making enemies.
Yeah. And you know, Gavin, this also applies tonight's talk if we have business people here from entrepreneurs, because allies in business can become true friends.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I did Collecting True Friends. The first name of the book was going to be Collecting Friends. And then I realized, you know what, it's really about the true friends. And a majority of mine came from the business world, because, you know, if you don't make them in school, and then you didn't make them, you know, in college, and then you don't make them in your neighborhood, then usually you do it in your career.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I've worked with bosses in the past where I've been on the same level of other staff, and the bosses have ended up taking me on vacation with them, and people have been going, like, why do you get that and we don't, kind of thing. And you know, and this is one of those things that I've made a lot of friends from the careers and the different things I've done, that I've stayed in touch with, the different areas I've worked. It's great. It's one of the best ways to make friends through work, in my opinion.
And if you collect the right people, and I got some feedback from people. It was interesting when I was naming the title, because the publisher let me keep the title, but they were like, Elizabeth, it's collecting that it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, well, do you walk on the seashore and just pick up every single seashell? No, you're looking for certain sizes or shapes or things, or something that calls out to you. It might be totally unique. So that's what we're supposed to do in life too, but that's where I think, and I'd love to talk and share a little bit with you on that. I think that's the hardest part for people that I have noticed, is that resistance, because when we're trying to collect them, they think, what are you up to? What do you want from me?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if they know you guys from a former background. They're like,
Are you ready for my first one?
Go for it.
I am.
So, Elizabeth.
Yes, Robin.
You've alluded to it many times. You said the word is a powerful word, worthy. In order to determine who's worthy, we have to have experienced someone who wasn't worthy. what was the first experience that gave you that powerful impact to say, you know what, I need to make better choices with who I let in my life?
Yeah, that's tough, because when you have your heart to somebody, and this is where I think people confuse, that they think that you can't have love for friends. I wouldn't say, being in love, that's different than the romantic side. But I can tell you, I've given my heart to many, many friends. And one of my early friends who I started out with, and she followed me through several moves, and we became friends through high school and then in college. And she just, every time she picked out the biggest losers with a capital L. I mean, it was just one nightmare after another that she would just bring into my world. And it was very hard, Robin, because I kept realizing that no matter how much I tried to fix her and help her and get her a job or introduce her to people that were worthy of her, her self-esteem was so low that she would never date healthy men and make healthy choices. And so I had to end that relationship, because I realized, and it was ironic, because I realized it when a federal agent was standing on my door one day ringing the doorbell, and I was having a dinner party, and her boyfriend had a warrant out for her. And I'm like, really? And it's kind of that moment where you're just like, what other storm is going to be brought at my doorstep? And literally. So, but it broke my heart. And there's been several people, friends, that have broke my heart over the year, because either I had to, and of course we had a conversation, so she wasn't left clueless. But yeah, it's tough when you think you're going to be friends forever, and then you're friends for a season, or you can't be friends for a reason.
What do you think the pain that she'd experienced earlier in life that made her need to medicate that way?
Oh, it was clear, her negligent father. So and she was not the prettiest of the daughters. And here's a good lesson for women that are listening tonight. If you've had sisters, and this is a true thing that I've noticed over and over, if you've had sisters and you've grown up in a very competitive environment where either maybe they're prettier than you, or they're smarter, or daddy likes her better, or mommy always calls her first, what happens is when you try to have a relationship with a woman, then you become very competitive among your female friends. So, and you may not realize it, but you're always constantly trying to one up and shine. And in her case, no matter what she did, she couldn't shine enough in her parents' eyes. So I think it just kept squashing her self-esteem. And it was I wish her well. I would love to know what happened to her. So, but yeah, but that's the very, very early experience that was happening. And there's been many over the years that you continue. You think you've signed on board for one thing, and then you find out that this person, their values are changing, not in a good way. You started out with aligned values, and that's actually in my book on chapter 2 and 3 on how to do an inventory of your friends so that you get better friends and you can kind of upgrade, or you can upgrade yourself if you're short in an area. But yeah, it's when you look through the list and compare, you might go, well, we were really good friends 10 years ago. And then you start looking at where the values are and what they've been showing you. And you're going, wow, that's not how I roll anymore. I've evolved, or maybe they're looking at you and going, really? Can you step it up a little?
So how do you overcome because it sounds like she and a lot of people have the struggle, like many people do, of the disease of comparison, which sends, as you're describing, sends people down a spiral of constantly not feeling like they're good enough because they're constantly comparing. What's something someone can do to start overcoming that disease of comparison so they can start building their self-worth, do you think?
The first thing is they've got to be aware of it. So, and it starts with, and if y'all are who are tuning in, you're not aware of it, but it's the one-up syndrome. Mm-hmm. So if Lena says to me, because we're both on the speaking circuit. So Lena says to me, Elizabeth, I've got this fabulous gig, such and such. And then before I don't even ask her about it. Oh, really? Well, I had this, or I just finished that, and blah, blah, blah. And see, it's then the whole tuning out thing. So instead I need to go, where are you going? And what are you doing? And then give her the moment of joy, give her the moment to tell me. And you know what? maybe I don't even tell her what I'm doing, because maybe this is, and this is not true with Lena because she's a superstar in the whole world. But say, for example, this was a really big thing that she got this. I need to celebrate her and stand in her moment. And a lot of women don't do that. I see men doing that better. Slap each other in the shoulder. Good for you. All right. Hey, that's pretty cool, man. I mean, you all may not say a lot of words, but you at least stand there present and you own that with the guy for a moment and stuff. And a lot of women struggle, Robin, with it. Just they go right into it's all about them. I had one of my friends, for example, when we came back from Egypt a few months ago, fantastic trip, climbed the tombs and pyramids and all of that. And so I come back and she'd seen some pictures and she's like, well, you went to Egypt? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, you didn't tell me you were going. I said, and see, this is where I do now. When I was younger, I didn't do this, but in a kind way, I will say, yeah, I did tell you. And and she looked at me, she goes, no, you didn't. I said, yeah. And let me tell you what you said. Your answer back to me was, oh, well, my friend Judy just went and blah, 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 blah. And I said, and you didn't even ask me one question, why I was going, when I was going, or why I wanted to go there. I said, so yeah, we went. I said, that's why I didn't bother to tell you anything. And that was my way of gently pointing out to her that, like, if you want the details, then you have to listen to the beginning of the story. So hopefully if people do that, Robin, they increase their self-awareness. But then if somebody's not listening, here's another good tip I'll tell you is, say, for example, with her, I could have been more blunt. And when she goes, well, my friend Judy's going, I could have said, well, could you tell me about that in a moment? But did you really hear me that I going with my husband? And would you like to know why? And I could have brought her back to the conversation, but instead it's a constant thing. So I just kind of, here we go again.
I think a lot of people listen to
worthy. I'm sorry, Gav, go ahead.
Sorry, Robin, carry on.
I was just saying, so is she worthy or unworthy?
As the years are continuing, it's getting harder and harder. So, and that's the hard part, because sometimes you have a lot of loyalty and you love somebody, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to continue relationships. But you have to make the decision. Do you get more enjoyment being around this person and socially? Is that what or is it coming at a cost that then you just feel drained and you prefer, if you're going the next time you're a person like that, if you know it's on your calendar and you pick up your phone and you go, ugh, don't, okay, there's your sign right there. Your body's told you, right? It's saying it's time to reevaluate that. And then you got to tell them why. You got to say, you used to be interested in what I was doing. You used to ask me questions. We used to share. I don't feel like we're doing that anymore. And I know that sounds really female-y.
Do you know what? Sorry, Elizabeth, carry on.
No, I was going to say, but I say that with my male friends too. I'm like, and so in America, we say the term dude, Gavin. And I'll be like, dude, were you even listening to me? And then a lot of times they'll go, oh, no, I'm sorry. What'd you say? And I'm like, I'm not your wife. Quit tuning me out. I'm trying to tell you something.
Love it. Wow. I was thinking about when you mentioned about Egypt, it reminded me when you were talking about your friend and the comparisons. When I come back from Egypt, I'm a nightmare for social media. I put all my travel pictures on there and that kind of thing. And it reminded me when you were talking about the kind of responses you get. And I had 2 comments on it within minutes of putting the pictures on. And one person said, I love Egypt because I love diving. It's really brilliant. And I was diving while I was there. Did you do any? And which was great. It's an acceptable comment. And the next comment down was somebody who put, I've been there. And that was it. And you're like, okay. So, and so when you were talking just about kind of, how people kind of, they're listening to respond, or they're saying their bit, or they're making it about them. That was pretty much, my mind went straight back to those 2 comments straight away. And I thought, yeah, I can relate to that. You can even tell these kind of people on social media. You don't even need to be face to face with them sometimes.
And a lot of times entrepreneurs do that. So when I started Red Hawk Strategic Solutions in 2015, I'd always had a corporate career. I came out. I was scared to pieces. But of course, I'm very bold and I'm like, I'll figure this out. And I told you guys before we went live that I'm the world's most curious person is my title. So I just figured, well, if I don't know it, I'll figure it out and it'll work. But I was scared. And the other thing I saw from people is that when they don't ask you questions, Gavin, like they're like, well, I've been there. So when I would ask something, they'd be like, well, I started a business. Okay, well, you want to ask me how I'm feeling? Because I'm over here shaking at my knees, like, or are you offering help? Like, I mean, I felt incredibly alone. I remember those first 2 years there because people were comparing, but they also weren't sharing, and they were like, well, I figured if you needed help, you would reach out. It's like, I didn't even know what I needed help with. Yeah. Like when they handed me my first daughter, and I never held a baby. And I'm like, and the nurse walks out. And I'm like, well.
Did you get the instruction manual, no?
Yeah, I didn't even know what to ask, Lauren, you're listening. She's in Tampa there too. But I mean, literally, I remember that. It was so, when we don't have any point of reference to even know what the questions are, a way to collect people that are worthy of us is to be that person that's kind enough to say, you know what, I remember what that was like, whether, you're going on a trip, hey, did you get to go see this? Or if you ever get to go back, I don't know if you got private passes for this, but this exhibit was incredible. Or you're starting a business, this is something that was really helpful. If you'd like that, I'd be happy to send that to you. But if that makes you the giver, and when you're the giver, and you all know this, there's a psychological connection that happens. And Lena learned this. We went to Cornell University together, and it's called the law of reciprocity. And the law of reciprocity, most people just overlook it. They go, oh, whatever. But it's true. If you invite somebody to come to something and then they can't make it, and you invite them again and they can't make it, on that third invite, they're going to say to you, well, you know what, I haven't been able to do any of that, but would you like to go to lunch? Or they're going to send you something, they're going to do, or that door will open for you and you won't even know it. So be the upper person and just listen and take a moment and find out what they need. But most people don't because of that one up.
Yeah.
I did that. I've been there. My kid has straight A's.
I've been there twice. I've been to Egypt twice.
I scored more than you.
Right. I never broke a bone.
Oh my God. Speaking of Egypt, what was your most magical experience there? I think I might know, but.
Well, it was incredible that this is, and I haven't told anybody this, so this is.
So I don't know.
This is kind of like, woo. So they allowed us at night using our cell phones to use the light to climb up on the Great Pyramid. And when we got up to the middle of the Great Pyramid, then you pop into where the tomb robbers originally went into. And that's where the researchers now have like the makeshift ladder. So you're scaling it and you feel almost like you're doing some sort of devotional thing because you can barely bend and stand and you're like crawling like a scarab and you're climbing up these ladders. And then you finally get like a one little 4-foot area where you can stand and stretch your back. And then you're crawling again and climbing up. So we got up to the king's chamber. And way up in the king's chamber inside the Great Pyramid, it's just this vast, open, echoey room. And they had a meditation for us. And there's this great big sarcophagus, which is down at the end. And by the way, I do not recommend anybody crawling in there. That's just me because I have a clinical background. I'm like, wow. Okay, so we just won't talk about that. But because people have like all sorts of experiences that happen in there. They're crying, they're weeping, who knows what's going on in there. But we meditated, and here's the cool part. So they had the men all doing this really deep hum, and the women were doing a lighter hum. And the resonance inside the king's chamber was just, I mean, you could feel it coming through with the granite because all the granite comes from Aswan, Egypt. And it was just, I mean, you could just feel it. Well, here's the part I haven't told anybody. It's true. Hand of God, it's true. I turned around and I looked at my husband. We've been together 30 years. And I looked at him and he looked like the day we met. Oh, I got chills. And I was like, And I blinked again and I looked, and his eyes were just as dark chocolate brown, and his hair was black like Mario because he had a black mustache then when I met him. And I just and I looked again at him, and I don't know, like I wondered, I'm like, was there enough oxygen in here? So yeah, but so they say people get in there and the energy, and there's vibration, and there's all sorts of stuff that you just can't explain. But that was pretty cool. That was like really, because I can see him, and it was just like the day we met, what he looked like sitting next to me. And I know, Lena, I've stooped you. I mean, I
literally, I was like waiting for every word, the next word. I'm like, you had totally.
It was just incredible. And I was like, did I look different? He's like, no.
You need to write. You need to put that in your next book. You need to write that.
Okay. Yeah, because it was really cool. So I wonder if, because of the ancient energy and whatever that happens in there,
absolutely,
it could be that I could actually see in his soul.
Yep.
You know, this is what I see of him. I don't know. And then the other thing too, if anybody's going there, take a friend. By the way, take friends. Is go into Nefertiti, not Nefertiti, but Nefertiti. She's the wife of Ramses. The private tour. You can still get tickets. 5 years ago, tickets were $20,000 American. So now you can get tickets for like $300 for 20 minutes to get in there, and it's one of the best things. Everything the colors are just fresh and vibrant, and that's another mystical kind of thing that your brain goes, this can't be 4,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. So take friends, take good friends when you go there, because you're going to have a lot of good memories. I tried to take you. I was telling him.
We tried to go. We tried to go. Oh,
See, I just wanted to be typically me and just steal a camel. But I know that I've seen Robin's like kind of square light up with about 4 pings in the last kind of 10 minutes.
All over the place.
Yeah, go for it, Robin. Go on.
No, I don't want to take anyone else's questions though.
No, far away.
So going all the way back. Most curious person. What sparked your curiosity when you were young?
Bullfrogs.
Oh, how'd that happen?
How in the world can they be so loud and so elusive and so damn slimy when you try to get them? Like, it seemed like they were just the coolest things in the whole world, and climbing trees. And why moose had to be so huge? They seemed like aliens. They were so big.
Where was this? Where are the bullfrogs?
Yeah, there you go. Right. Let's have a field trip. This was in Maine. So this was the short time that we were actually up in Maine. And there were many a days I was covered with algae and riding my bike home and then putting on a pink dress for dinner. So it was, and the other curiosity was, and I guess you can pick up on that, is at an early age, about 8, I was fascinated with Egyptology. It's like, what is this stuff? How did they do this? How could this be 4,000 years ago? And who built these things? And so I was the nerdy little kid drawing these pyramids and going and standing before the class and explaining, this is the Queen's chamber and the King's chamber and all of the, so that was anything ancient technology. So of course now, Robin, I'm a total sci-fi geek. So it's like it evolves.
Yeah.
It goes from bullfrogs and nature to
wow.
Do
you read any Andy Weir stuff?
Oh, I'm gonna write that down. Thank you.
So this is the guy that wrote The Martian. This is the next one, the Hail Mary Project.
Thank you. Yeah, I love good books. So
So who exposed you first to Egyptology? Like that spark came from somewhere. Where do you think it was?
Yeah. Probably my mother, because my mom, she's still alive. She's brilliant. When she was reading, she has macular now, so she can't read anymore. But when I remember coming home from school, and this is days before the internet, and my mom would have a cloth bag, and she had gone to the library, and on the stack would be another stack on the dining room table would be another stack of her books. She would read between 12 and 20 books a week. So it was just, and she was reading everything from like Andy Warhol's crazy stuff to, things about Egypt, to history, to fashion magazines, we had a very interesting life growing up, because she had the New York Times and the New Yorker and the Rolling Stones on the coffee table. It was like, so it was like, huh. Yeah. So, Yeah. So just somebody saying this is what time is. And then of course, so anytime I could pick a project at school, that was easy because the library was full of stuff like that.
Do you remember the first time you did an Egyptology project by any chance?
No, I just remember the poster boards and standing there again and drawing. So, oh, you'll love this one. So here's my latest pyramid. So this one actually is supposed to glow, Lena. So
it looks like it's glowing right now.
Yeah, I forgot what that stuff's made out of. What is it? The special stuff they cut. But I don't remember the first presentation on it. But Robin, I just remember feeling incredibly comfortable talking about that. So that's why when Lena told me she's an archaeologist, I was like,
oh yeah,
this is like, okay, we're kindred spirits.
It's also great. What I was curious about was that no one seemed to shut down your curiosity. And a lot of times when we're given a spark by someone and validated, and matter of fact, that was Mark Bowden's episode he was just on with me, which he had an art teacher that just like really validated him. So he's like, I'm going into the arts. You know, I've seen it with my own kids. I'm sure everyone's seen it and had that point in their life where when you're validated for something, you're like, that's what I want to do because I was rewarded for it. And so I was curious whether, you know, so your mom brought home like a plethora of things and you latched onto this and was the spark that followed that train on that. And also the fact that no one shut down your curiosity, which happens a lot around the age 9 or 10. No one seemed to do that, did they?
It does. And I can tell you, and I actually have that in the Collecting True Friends, because I saw that lack of someone's ability to continue to free think in a woman that one day I was at a seminar kind of thing, and she had the answer. She was sitting there at the table, and on break, I found out how brilliant she was. And I can't remember what her name in the book is, but because I changed names on there and stuff. But I said to her, I said, you knew the answer to it. I mean, because we're sitting there going, if only we knew what 2 + 2 was. Oh my goodness, if we only knew. And she's sitting there just holding on to 4. And I'm like, why would you keep? And then I had this epiphany and this download, and it was just what you said, Robin. And I said, somebody told you at an early age to be quiet, didn't they? Mm. Somebody told you nobody wants to hear you. And she pulls back and she goes, how did you know that? So that happens a lot with women, particularly. You'll find out when you're talking to somebody, they don't want, they were either told you're being boastful, you're being too curious. I did have people ask me, Robin, because they ask it in a suspicious way of my curiosity. They'll say, why in the world would you want to know that? So, and that's when I realized that then I'm being a little bit too inquisitive. So not interrogating like y'all can be, but too inquisitive, you know, because sometimes it unnerves people when you're just trying to relate to them. I'm like, and I'll have to pull back and say, I'm sorry, I'm just highly curious. It looked like something that you're good at. And and then I usually say, I'm fascinated by you. I'd like to get to know you better, but if it's making you uncomfortable, I understand. And then I pull back, and then usually it's like a tango. They'll come forward. But that's if we have parents on here tonight, that's a really sad moment when somebody will not allow the child just to ask a question and just to say, you know what, can we talk about this later, or we'll get to that later, but really right now I don't have time, but good for you, or go look it up, or check on the internet, or, you know, go ask your aunt. She's brilliant at it. She's an archaeologist.
Like Gavin's daughter's a rock star because you can ask a million questions and he entertains them all, him and Beth.
Well, I've got this thing when it comes to kids that if you've got to answer every question that they ask you one way or another, and give them your full present attention, because if they can't come to you for the small stuff,
yes,
they won't come to you for the big stuff.
You are so right.
So, yeah, so that's going to be one of them things where if my daughter comes to me with some daft question, I've got to try and stop whatever I'm doing and answer it. And, you know, sometimes I will tell her, I'll say, look, I'm really busy at the minute, but give me 5 minutes and I'll come and sort it out with you. But she knows that I will respond to whatever it is she wants to know.
Yeah. And you know, friends are that way too, because if you're trying to start a new friendship and somebody is asking you like, well, how did you learn? Just like you were asking me, Robin, well, how did you learn that? Or where did you get into it? And if somebody's kind of like squashing that, usually that potential friend is not going to keep going there, because the message they got was, oh, we're not going to talk about that. You know, and instead it could just be that maybe they don't want to talk about it at work. Maybe they don't want somebody else to hear it. There's a nosy body over there, or maybe they need to finish what they're working on right at the moment, drive the car, and they just can't give it their attention.
Ooh. I went off a little.
I'm not
while
monopolizing. That's why I'm being quiet.
No. I was looking for a particular book when you mentioned you had an interest in sci-fi. A book called Blood, Fury, Nemesis that was written by a guy that worked for the government here in the UK, has spent many years writing it, and he's probably one of the most intelligent people I have ever met. I mean, like, even his head, he got a great big huge head. He got a brand new member of Mensa, and this guy was just phenomenally impressive when it comes to general knowledge and that kind of thing. About as socially awkward as you could possibly get. And when he finally finished the book, he sent it to somebody else that I know was very clever too, who a relation of his, who edited it for him because she's an author as well. And when it got completed, I think it was put on Amazon, and not long after he passed away. And nothing ever come of it. And it never went off. And I think it's possibly something that is going to be a little treasure trove for the sci-fi fans. I don't know whether it was released under his own name or not. So I will find out. And if I can find out, I will put the link in the description. I'll send it to each of you as well.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think knowing what I know about this guy, you've probably got to have a pretty high IQ just to be able to read his work. He is a phenomenally intelligent fellow. So
it's interesting. One of my
Eli in the background, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Eli.
Hey, we got the cat. Oh, where's the dog?
Wait.
The dog.
One of my
It's a family affair.
in Philly, Barbara Dormant. I don't know if she's on here tonight. I know she just joined the TCB. She's a professor, and she just did wrote a thesis on STEM students need more training, and this would be a great thing for all of us to work together. So I want to read Barbara's paper on that, because the problem is that socially awkward, Gavin, people misunderstand it. They interpret it as being rude, or back to like Robin's point is, well, how is when you're curious? Because sometimes they can ask a question and they don't realize, like, oh, wow, okay, no awareness, like this is not the time to ask it. Minds, they're just like, boop, and then out it comes, like at a time that maybe someone else was speaking. Or
this guy, he had everybody in stitches. The ones we went round to see, it was like a family Christmas party get together thing, and he was there, and I got there and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He said, "Oh, my hemorrhoids are playing up, and my digestion's awful, and my hair's falling out." And he spent about an hour telling me how dreadful things were, and kind of, and he went on about all this stuff. And I remember at the end of it all, I looked at him and I went, I wish I hadn't asked.
Wish you hadn't asked.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't have asked.
Right. Well, that's where you learn. You're not, when you see somebody like that, you're not going to say, "So how are you?" You're just going to say, "Good morning."
Yeah, good to see you again. And then go pour a drink.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting because when I was teaching, growthnetworking.com is my handle on Instagram. So I used to teach Growth Networking Academy right before COVID, and networking was the big thing, and how do people get out? And I can tell you, there were some moments I would actually take them out in the field with me. It was like, okay, now we're going to go live and go use this stuff. And some of the things that came out of the people's mouth, like, I mean, about body parts or different things that happened. And like, I still, some of that just echoes. And I'm like, so I actually have that in my talk now, like in my trainings. I'm like, you will not mention body parts. That's not part of a conversation. or reproductive organs. And
Hey, wait, I mentioned naughty bits. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's different. You're talking about covering the naughty bits. No, they were talking about the functions and what happened when theirs didn't work right. And and then like one of the ladies was explaining that that's why she couldn't work anymore. So it was just like, it was like, would you like a croissant? but socially awkward is a really good thing if you guys want to go there, because I think that's one of the biggest things that I see relationships break up on. And that is because one friend thinks the other one is not valuing them anymore as a priority. And they, instead of talking to them, they get angry. That's why I love men. You men will tell each other, like, dude, you acted like a shit the other day when you did that. Like, and us women will be like, oh my gosh, why would she do that? She didn't come. And we don't share like our disappointment or our disgust when somebody lets us down. We think we do, but we're so.
You're on a different level to us guys. I mean, I remember a friend of mine ringing me and saying, Gavin, I need your help. I need to understand women. I'm like, no. I said, women understand women and they don't like each other. I said, trust me, you're better off not understanding them and just going with what you know. And so, but you are right, because women are the kind of people who'll smile. If one leaves, they'll be like, bye, see you later. Yeah, you look lovely tonight. Bye. And then after they've gone, they go, she's a horrible bitch, isn't she? I can't stand her or whatever.
Did you see what she was wearing?
I know, yeah. And yet guys will be like, right, I'm going now. And you'll be like, yeah, bugger off then, leave us to it. We don't care about you. And then he'll go away and they'll go, he's cool, isn't he? So we're completely the opposite. It's totally different for blokes. So, we'll insult each other to our faces, but, behind each other's backs, we'll praise each other up. But totally the opposite to women. So
that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Gavin, that reminds me of the story you used to say about doing the opposite thing. Mm-hmm. When you and your pals would go to the bar and try to pick up dates, and you never got dates, and then all of a sudden you just change tactics, and you're like, well, I can't remember. It's like the confidence thing.
Yeah, it was just a confidence boosting thing that I used to help people out who wanted to try and get dates. So in order to help, see, a lot of people have this great big fear of rejection. Yeah. And that's what messes them up. Just the walk from the table to the bar to approach the girl that they want to talk to, will turn around but in that like kind of 20-foot space, they'll start getting sweaty and nervous and clammy, and they'll have this perfect line in their head, and by the time they get there, they will totally goof it up, and then they'll realize, and then they'll go all internal, and everything will make a mess. So what I used to do is I used to say, right, the objective is to get rejected, and we want to see who can kind of set the record to get rejected the fastest. Now, obviously, you can't just walk up and be downright insulting. You do have to have this conversation. But during the conversation, the idea is to, at the end of it, say, ask for the number or ask for a date and get told no. And if you get a date, then you've got to buy the beers for the rest of the night. But if you get rejected, then you don't, and we just carry on buying our own drinks. So this was the object, and the idea was to build up that resilience to rejection, to stop you from caring whether you got rejected or not. And we got that good at it because we didn't want to buy the beers because we're tight. We got that good at it that we started by default getting dates all the time. And we were trying to get rejected, but the confidence within us had swollen so much, the fear of rejection had gone, that we were trying, and we were just enjoying ourselves and having a laugh, thinking, I don't care about this, I'm going to get rejected anyway. And that constant kind of exposure ended up just having the opposite of the desired effect, and we were getting dates every week quicker than ever. It was awful. All those dates. It was
awful.
It was
part of your time.
Cost me a fortune in beers.
That's the confidence, and I'm so glad you tied it, because that's on a romantic level. But the confidence, in fact, I demonstrated this the other day. So you know how we all talk about body clutching. Is that how you got your gorgeous wife? Sonny wants to know.
Oh no, that was by accident.
So that wasn't part of the strategy.
No.
But, the confidence, that's, if people really want to collect true friends, they need to work on their confidence. So I recommend you stand in front of a mirror and you come up with 5 questions that, if you're put in front of some new people, whether it's a cocktail party or it's your cake cutting at the office or whatever, if it's you're in there for, or you're meeting a new vendor or whatever, but that you just have at least a repertoire of at least 5 questions of something that's very basic that you can go to, but you've practiced it in front of a mirror, and it just seems comfortable. And it's like, it's the small talk, because through the small talk starts the bigger talk, because you're going to run into something. And even if, my favorite thing is I always compliment somebody on their shoes, especially guys. Guys have amazing shoes. I'm like, I'm in. I'm like, so it's like, oh my goodness, you know, because men who love beautiful shoes or boots, especially if they're like a pair of Lucchese boots, I mean, they want, believe me, they want somebody to notice. Oh yeah, I'm sporting $1,000 pair of boots tonight. This lady just pointed it out, right?
I actually have a pair of Lucchese's.
Hey.
Yeah,
Bought them on a BAP consult down in
there you
Texas.
go.
Robin,
Combat
you
boots.
just went up her.
What?
You just went up her.
I know, and I knew it as I was doing it too, and I knew it as I was doing it. But I was really trying to think of it. It's not a but, you know, that hey, here's a way to relate because I actually have Lucchese boots.
Yeah,
you do, and that is the thing that when you can get on somebody's just granular level really quickly, because I don't want anything from you. I'm complimenting you on your shoes, and you're just like, but that I think that's where a lot of people get a mistake. And I know, Lena, in your training, you tell everybody, try not to compliment somebody on like a physical attribute. Of course, everybody, you know, the first thing they go to is my hair. So, I mean, and that's okay, you know, but when we talk about physical attributes, you know, it can be a little bit weird, you know, like when somebody stares into you and goes, you know, you have the most gorgeous blue eyes, and I don't know the person, I'm like, okay.
Oh,
You know, so it gets a little awkward. So, but if you talk about shoes, or you talk about, you know, maybe on their screensaver, oh my gosh, what kind of dog is that? You know, so if you have at least 5 things that you feel comfortable with, and my husband, back to Gavin, when you're talking about socially awkward, my husband is a civil engineer. So when we were mixing and out there, I told him, I said, look, I'm starting this business and you've got to be able to talk to people. So I taught him, I said, here's your question you're going to ask. We're going to go to Scotland and London and Paris. You go find somebody in the crowd that's been to those places, and what do they like best? And what's the thing that they recommend and stuff. And it was funny because most of the times he'd strike out. But then the one night that we're at this Christmas thing, and he runs into the guy, not only did the guy know Scotland, but he'd lived there for 3 years. And Don comes back and he's like the puppy who's just got the duck in his mouth. And he's like, I've met the guy. and the next thing, we're standing there looking at the phone, and they became our friends. Of course, you know, we collected them, but we're looking at phones, and he says, when do you think you're going to go? And I said, well, I think we're going to go in September. He says, no. You need to go before August 25th. That's when Tattoo's still playing. You need seats here. This is where you go. And we're pulling up, and I moved our trip up 2 weeks, and we were sitting at Tattoo on our anniversary because Don had asked a question because he was prepared and he had rehearsed that and just kept practicing it and now he's very comfortable talking to people. He has backup questions, but it's when we don't have that. And then what happens is then we come across not confident, and there's something in human nature, and you all know that because you're gurus at this, but when somebody doesn't feel confident as a human, what my belief is that scares us, because then we're thinking, are you seeing something around that I should be concerned about? Why are you not feeling good where we're at? And then it makes us on edge. And that's where the whole body clutching and this stuff and their movements and stuff. So when somebody else is nervous, it makes us nervous. But if we can fake confidence, we can get more friends. And just like in your romantic story of, you know, like, hey, I'm going to swagger up and I'm going to ask around. Right? Because who wants to go out with a guy? It's like, hey, you know, do you want to go out with me? I mean,
yeah.
Oh, wait.
I spent a lot of time teaching guys when it comes to things like that. But you just talking about those questions. It reminds me of Robin's got a little book thing of mine, an embarrassing one I did ages ago, very very thin little book, and it's called Cold Read Like a Spy. And that would be perfect for you. And it's there. It is like.
Oh, thank you.
It's 12 stock lines. It's only a very thin book. It's you know it's not anything super special.
I never said that one of yours.
Wow.
So and of course what this is, it's big kind words. Of yeah they're all Barnum statements, and they're all applicable to anybody in the world, yet at the same time sound like they're uniquely purposed to that particular individual. So you know, and you can say something, you know, I can tell by looking at you X, Y, and Z, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, wow, how did you know that? You know, you must be psychic. So because a lot of those Barnum statements are used by psychics psychic style people. Let's go that way. Yes, that'd be brilliant one for you.
Cool. Robin, bursting at the seams over there.
I know. No, go
Go
on.
for it.
Go on.
Listen, this is my show to sit and listen. I'm
All
loving
right.
it.
So you mentioned socially awkward and people that have a tough time engaging. So for someone that is socially awkward, you gave some great advice and guidance on questions they can ask and have ready in practice. What other things can someone do to add to their personalities to not be socially awkward?
Okay, that people won't like these answers. So I'm going to tell you this. So if you're listening and this applies to you, take it under advisement that maybe it's true. And then, because that's where self-awareness comes in. The first thing they can do is quit being so boring. So if you find that people are staring at you and they do not remember your name, the next time they see you and you say, well, yeah, we met. Oh, we did. And if this is a constant repeat and people aren't remembering you, then that's because that you have either bored them or you have made yourself invisible. So if you want that to end, then your socially awkwardness needs to change in that you need to come up with something, like, yeah, my name is Mary, and I can, and like, for example, I'm wearing a cross and she might say to me, like the Blessed Mother. Now, am I going to remember Mary from now on? Heck yeah, because she sees that that's a big deal to me as my faith. I'll be like, oh, and then the next time, or what I tell people is if I think they're not listening, I'll say, I'm Elizabeth, like the queen who had the red hair from Virginia. I'm from Virginia, like Queen Elizabeth. So, and then the next time they'll see me, they'll go, oh, hey, I remember. So give them a hook that they can remember you by. Make it easy for people to remember you. Or if you see that they're sporting something as a dog lover, give them a reason to want to remember you. Ask them about their puppy. But that's the biggest thing, Robin, I see right up front is that people get angry because they're not remembered, but they also have not put much effort into it. The other thing I would say too is increase your manners. Social manners are huge. Open the door for somebody. If you're going to go get a drink before you're beating them over to the coffee and pouring it for yourself and getting a napkin, take a step back, get an extra cup, ask them if you'd like them to pour. Just take a moment and act like this is a person. I mean, that's what you would do in your home. So if you're in a place where you're trying to get to know people, have good manners, be that person that's better. So for example, and that's a true story that just happened a few weeks ago. I was at an economic meeting and the guy's like just barging right in front of me. He has to get the napkin. He has to reach across me and get the cup and he has to do all that. And I just stepped back. The older gentleman walks up who's got amazing manners and says, can I get you a cup of coffee? And he picks up a napkin and hands it. Now, what am I going to think about him versus the first guy? And the meeting hadn't even started. So Lena, we were talking about how do you make yourself memorable? How if you're socially awkward, do you fix that? You have amazing manners. You give them a hook to remember you by. Make it super easy that, hey, I saw you drive up in and like I love Toyotas. I saw you drive up in a Toyota. I have the new CHR that they came out with, or I see you like Kate Spade handbags, or I see you like Lucchese boots. Have you been up here to Acredale to the boot factories? Give them something to remember you by. And when you close, this will be my last tip I'll give them to if you're socially awkward, is make sure you tell them that you enjoyed speaking to them. Just don't look down and then be like, okay, well, okay, I'm going to go over here now. I mean, no one can remember that. So if you can, please remember their name. If you get a business card from them, that's gold. But if not, look them in the eye. This is so basic. And if they give you their name, like I said, the example, Mary, then I'm going to look at Mary. And if we're not shaking hands, that's cool. But I'm going to look at Mary and I'm going to gently lean forward. And I'm just going to say, Mary, it is so great to meet you. And then before I leave her, I'm going to say, Mary, I really enjoyed talking to you for a few minutes. I hope I get to see you again. It was fascinating when you told me your story about your new puppy. Now, is she going to remember me? Yeah. And she's going to leave on a high note. So those are, even though we're socially awkward, And believe me, when I get around some of the military guys and they're talking in 1,000 acronyms, I get socially awkward. Lena can translate for me, and you guys can, but it makes me awkward. So just take a moment, breathe, and make yourself memorable. Have a hook, but watch your manners because you are being watched.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
I have a question.
Is that helpful? Yes.
Yeah.
What about the people who don't know they're socially awkward? Do you have any?
Well, I think I kind of called them out there. One is, if people aren't remembering who they are, Lena, that's because they're boring.
Yeah.
It's just flat out. It's like they're not going to talk to you again. They made it clear to you. So then we need to assess and say, am I blowing it? Is there something that I'm doing that people are, like maybe I'm repelling people? So, and that's one of the classes that I was teaching about. I said, how to attract people and not repel them, because we can repel people and we don't even sometimes realize it. So this is where my other advice on that would be, is get a wingman. So get somebody to be with you. And if you feel like you're, like I said, okay, and I'll just use myself at a military thing. Okay. So I have a wingman and I'm like, look, dude, I don't always know what all these acronyms are. And when they start talking about he's the PSO from the QPT, and I went over and did the HAV and the blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, uh-huh. And so we came up with like a little, like a, if I go, they know, like, and it's just playful and stuff. But then my friend knows, like, okay, Elizabeth's out. She has no idea what this guy's talking about. So then he'll translate and be, so you're in the Navy and you did this. Did you like that? And then it's level. Then I can come back in and come into it. So get a wingman and then ask at the end of it, did I do any better? Was it any better, or was I still so awkward, or why did the people walk away? What did I say? Because I've said some things before too, not realizing that not in the military situation, but like in business situations, perhaps I should have known some things, because I should have researched a little bit better where we were going and what the people's beliefs were, and I should have kept my mouth shut. My wingman told me, they go, yeah, wrong crowd. Yeah, don't mention that here. Like for example, we like Sci-Fi. There's some groups out there, you mention that, and they're like, okay, they're wackadoodle. Don't hang out with these guys, because they don't think that way.
Yeah.
People think they're bad at remembering names, and of course, it's not that they're bad at remembering names. They're bad at prioritizing the memory of the name. Bingo. Because if every time you met somebody new, if you imagine that they had a suitcase next to them or a briefcase next to them, and it had 100 grand in it, and you were tasked, they said, you're about to meet somebody new. They've got a case with 100 grand in it. All you got to do is remember their name, and you get to pick that case up and walk away when you go. You're not going to forget that person's name. They walk up and say, hi, I'm Brian. You go, hi, Brian. And you're picking up that case because you're going to make a point of remembering that name. And that's where the issue is with a lot of people. They're not making it a priority. They want to get that busy getting into the conversation that they're skipping past what they don't see as an important thing, which really, really is.
And Gavin, it's brilliant because here's the thing. If they were romantically interested in somebody or scoring, they would remember the name.
Oh, yeah.
But it's in business, or if they're trying to have a potential friend or an ally. I see it in neighbors all the time. Somebody's new to the neighborhood and they're just like, oh, yeah, we met the neighbors. What are their names? I don't know. Well, they're married and they have a little kid. And I think there's 2 dogs. I'm not sure. Okay, well, did you get a phone number? No. And I'm thinking, so how does that make the neighbors feel? I'm like, well, are you going to walk over your address to them? Are you going to, did you make your name clear? Oh, I don't know if I explained what our names were. I mean, but it's interesting, isn't it? How that if romance is involved, people are making the effort, they're at least listening a little bit.
Because that's when you're being deeply present.
Yes. Ooh, good words.
Because so we can only, as a human being, our genetics, we can only focus on one thing at a time, no matter what generational people will tell you I can multitask. No, you can do a lot of things, but you'll do them all like crap. We remember things when we're present. And to be present means you have no agenda. You're not thinking about what you want to say next. You're literally just listening and paying attention to the human being, and you'll remember everything. When you have nothing to say, when you're not trying to come up with something witty to say, when you're deeply present, as Gavin was saying, you remember everything.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. And you know what? That's interesting you use those words, because that's what I told Lena before I went to Egypt. She was like, well, why are you going? And I said, I want to go someplace and just stand in awe and be present. I don't want to think about anything else that's been going on this year. I just want to just be in awe and just soak it in and it was the first time, I can't remember, probably in decades, that I spent 2 weeks just every day, just being. And it was a very, very different sensation.
And that's why you had that vision of your husband like you did.
Oh,
you were present.
Could be. Yeah, we should all go do that together.
Yeah, definitely.
You hit flow state when you're deeply present. Sorry, Lena, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, I stepped on you. What did you say? Because I think it was pretty.
I said you hit flow state when you're deeply present.
Yeah. Oh, I love how I'm writing that down.
You are. It happens during like these conversations with you all. It'll take me a few minutes to kind of snap out when I'm done, because what time is it? What's next? Because when you're deeply present, you're deeply paying attention to what everyone's saying, because that's the only thing that matters. Nothing else matters in the moment. That's deep presence.
Lena and I learned in Cornell when we went there, one of the things that I never heard the concept before regarding being deeply present, but they said when somebody's needing the floor, if you could just stop and be present enough to really realize that this person never gets a chance, never gets what they call airtime. You remember that, Lena? If you're just the person that and you can do this with friendships, potential friends, romantic relationships, or anything, but just if you could just pause the group enough just to say, hey, wait a minute, I want to hear what Frank was getting ready to say. It doesn't mean we're agreeing with Frank, but if we can just give him, airtime and just say, Frank, could you quickly tell us what you're trying to think? What happens then is that opens up the door for the kindness. And then all of a sudden, Frank's going to look different at us because we gave him a little bit of airtime. Because it may be, remember, Robin, when you started the podcast tonight, when we were talking about, you're like, somebody gave you airspace. And that's not what the words you said to me, but they did. They didn't say, why are you asking that? Or that's a dumb idea. Or why are you interested in that as a science? And yeah, so that's another great way too, that if somebody's socially awkward, we can kind of push back with other people if we have some influence, if we're in a group.
And most of the time, always remember this: if someone has a behavior that's inappropriate, it's caused by two things in general: pain and trauma, and learned muscle memory that wasn't appropriate. And so, especially if you're a parent and and people in your life are annoying you, and your kids are, you taught them the behaviors because they're modeling. We come out with not many learned behaviors. They're learned from the environment around us. So who are you to judge their environment around that they had no control over? So it's generally being caused by pain, trauma that you're triggering. This is where you own it. And then what are you going to do about it? They just, they're looking, no one wants to not be connected. They just haven't learned the behaviors to be connected and to be valued. And so all you have to do is show a little bit of interest, compassion, which is the empathy plus action, and just be present for them. You're going to give the one gift that very few human beings give another human being: deep presence. It's so rare. And when you get it, it's just life-changing.
Got one for you, Elizabeth.
Have you ever changed up your accent to try and fool strangers? Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had some fun with that. Sometimes, since I'm Southern, just when the Yankees are around, hopefully I'm not offending anybody, but the guys from New York, and they talk like this, and they're talking really, really fast. And what's the matter with you? Not talking fast enough, right? Then I'll just bring it even more slow and talk even more Southern. Yes. And I'm so tired. That means I need to get some rest. Siri thinks tired is tarred and feathered. So So yeah, it's a lot of fun. You'd said something, I wrote it down. So the cause of the leading behavior, it was interesting because when I've seen so many people and they go into like anger mode, because and you're right. It's a learned behavior. So, and it's interesting because then you're thinking, just like what I mentioned, people from up north sometimes, not Rhode Island, further up, Lena, but like they can be very loud, and you're like, but down here we're like, why are you yelling at me? Pass the potatoes. I mean, us down here culturally, it can seem really awkward a little bit, but it's their, if someone gets louder, they get louder. It's a learned behavior. And you're right, because in some cases
don't judge it, be curious about it.
Hopefully there weren't trauma related, but be curious, and ask, like, why are we shouting? Or, so that's when I usually like to whisper, and it makes them really crazy, because then they're like, why are you whispering?
And no one's in a rush. You don't have to jump. And this is the extrovert from New York saying, you don't have to be in a rush to open your mouth to figure out what's going on. Keep watching. Just keep watching.
Yeah.
Just keep watching, because you'll figure it out. If you just sit back and be a great observer, you're being present, and you just keep taking it in, you'll quickly figure out what's going on, the dynamics, what's normal, if it's healthy or unhealthy. And then you can decide, who's worthy to bring into your life, because you can then assess, are these behaviors that are healthy and supportive or not?
You were so, and I love that. You just like encapsulated like one of my talks. So there's this little story. If we have time, I'll make it quick, but I call it Little Red Honda, and everybody just loves the story. So I'm heading over to a speaking event or training, and all of a sudden this car comes out of nowhere, right in front of me, and I'm like, oh. So I'm thinking, wow, something urgent must be going on, right? And then the same thing. So I get up to the next intersection, same thing. Cuts in front of me again. I'm like, what? Goodness gracious, this guy must be having a rough day, right? So now I'm pulling back because he's dangerous. So I let him make the turn. I waited the red light, then I turn. And then I realized I'm in the same parking lot as Little Red Honda. So now I'm carrying my bag. I got my gear. I'm getting ready to go into it. Get all the way up to the door. And we talked about manners. Does he hold the door? No. Okay. So now I see the guy getting in there. I'm almost up to the elevator. Does he hold the door? No. So here I've got the box, the bag I'm carrying because I'm the presenter. Boop, closes the door. So I'm trying to now hit the button because I'm by myself. I get up there, do my gig, get done. The person who hired me comes over with, guess who? Little Red Honda. Comes over with him. The guy couldn't wait to meet me. Elizabeth, obviously he didn't know what I look like. I'm thinking, well, obviously you didn't do your research to look at my hair to realize that you've cut me up, right? Because you would have known I was the speaker, right? So the employer says to, I want to introduce you, whatever his name was. Oh, that's the thing, Gavin, I was going to mention to you. I'm really super good with names unless it's somebody I don't like, and I gone. Like I can't even. I wouldn't tell you his name if I remembered, but I'm telling you, I don't even remember this guy's name. I hit the delete button.
Deleted him, yeah.
Like, never again. His name will be in there. But yeah. So then, so he says, "Oh, I'm so glad to meet you." And I said, "Well, actually, we've almost met several times today." That's my Little Red Honda story. So I love it, Robin, when you're talking about we're being watched with everything we do, or we can watch people from a distance. Because when I tell the class that, like I was at the university last weekend presenting, and I told them, I said, do you want to do business with Little Red Honda? Do you guys want to do it? I mean, have I already made a decision and a judgment call about what I will do or not do with this man? So you're right, Robin, we can make decisions. And there's a lot of intelligence we can just grab by just watching people, because his behavior to be charming, and I do remember he was tall and he was handsome and charming and all that, it didn't mean squat to me anymore, because he had no social manners. He was rude. And he had
one big problem. He drove a Honda, not a Toyota.
Right. Right. A little red one too. So, right. But that's really important. If you don't know what to do, just watch the room, watch the people, pay attention to the people and how they're treating. See who's going to hold the door for somebody, because that's the person that I'm going to go talk to. That's the person I'm going to have a relationship with, not the person who is grabbing the napkin and the cup of coffee in front of me and doesn't even help somebody. I mean,
Lena said it during our podcast episode many months ago, and that is, when assessing people, you assess them how they treat others.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the greatest sign whether, the healthy relationship someone can have or not is just sit back and watch, see how they treat staff, how they treat waiters, waitresses, when you go out. And it's the easiest assessment ever is how they treat others.
Yeah. When they think they're not being watched.
Mhm.
So I've seen that happen so many times. So it's because I've seen people try to outsmart somebody and I'm sure this has happened to you all. And then what I love is then when they're like, oh, I didn't know that was you.
Right.
Shouldn't have made a difference.
Right. That's the thing.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, I really feel sorry for you. So, but that goes back to, that perhaps that wasn't something important and they were taught as kids, get everything you can. Don't let anybody get in front of you. Why do you want to help somebody? What are they going to give to you? I mean, you don't know what they've been. So, I give people a benefit of the doubt on some of that stuff that they may have not been told any grace, but there also comes a point that in business that's like, you have to start learning some business etiquette. If you're going to be successful in business, you can't be ignorant your whole life to that. There's just,
everyone's on their own path. You can't judge a path. If you want to have for your own personal brand, it doesn't mean you have to have them on your path.
Exactly. And that's the part about who you're going to collect and not.
Yep.
So it's free will. We all have a choice.
The thing is, on the clock and off the clock, you've got to be the same person because and Lena probably knows better than anybody, because when she's been to the interrogation rooms in Gitmo, she will tell you that you learn more about people unofficially walk into the interview room than what you do when you're in there. So, and really quickly, you said you're a Toyota fan. It reminded me of a story, and I'm hoping it wasn't you that ended up driving 200 miles because the radio competition where they won a brand new Toyota, only to get there and find out it was a Star Wars toy. It was a toy Yoda. So yeah, she tried to sue the radio station. That wasn't you, was it, by any chance?
Oh,
No.
Toyota.
It was.
Listening out there, I would like to test drive the Crown. I think that looks pretty cool, the new Toyota Crown. So yeah, have you seen the commercials for that? She is flipping sexy. Yeah, so look it up, Toyota Crown. I'll give that a plug. So I haven't tested it, so I don't know how she handles, but so. Well, it's such a pleasure. If I can help anybody collecting true friends, it is on Amazon. Please would welcome your feedback and your questions, of course. And it's just always such a pleasure, and helping people, because the book isn't just for personal. It's also, if we can use it in business, then we build allies, we build networks, we build ourselves up in the right ways.
And where can people find you?
So, and I'm on ElizabethDuncan-Hawker.com. So it's DUNCAN Hawker, HAWKER.com. So,
good name. I like that name.
You like that?
I like that name.
And if they go there, they can actually do /secrets. Maybe you guys can put that on the link. And they'll get and I'm not going to spam them. I don't email people and stuff, but they'll get the 7 secrets to connecting well everywhere, every time. So if and I can put that in the chat.
Nice.
But yeah, because I always like to give people something with like, how do I continue this? How to make this better? So yeah. So
I'll give everybody a tip too. When you were talking about the neighbors earlier and remembering names, if your new neighbors move in, take them a card round with your names on it, from Gavin and Helen at number 3 or whatever. And that way, because what it is, you're not moving in, so you're not under stress. So you'll remember their names.
Yes.
But they've just moved house. They moved to a new area. They've got all sorts going on. And even if you introduce...
And that handwritten card and we'll say welcome. Write it out, you'll remember.
Exactly. And it's brilliant. And they might at the time just go, oh, yeah, thank you very much. I've seen people take bottles of wine round to people who are recovering alcoholics. I've seen people take boxes of chocolates round to people who have dairy intolerances. I've seen that many things go wrong. But a card, you can't go too far wrong with, especially if it's recycled.
Well, or bring them a plant for their front porch if you're worried about all those other issues.
That's it.
Or tulips from your bed or something personal for the neighborhoods. But that's a brilliant advice, because I can tell you what, I have stacks of cards here because I just can't get rid of them. But like this, thank you cards that people send me, especially things like after I'll do a talk and somebody will write me something. Those are gold. We hold on to those things. So you're right, Gavin. It's like, because they're going to remember you from that very first day 5 years ago when you showed up on the doorstep and they knew nobody in that neighborhood. They're going to go. And I remember how nice the Stones were when they came over.
Yeah. All you're going to say is, look, I know you're probably really, really busy. You know, I'll leave you to it. I just wanted to introduce myself. If you need anything, I'm over at number 2. Give me a shout. And that's about it. That's it, yeah.
I like that. I like that. Yeah. I'll leave you to it. That's cute.
That's a lot of people struggle with saying goodbye, and they don't know how to say goodbye. You know, when they're having a conversation with someone, they've really got to go, and they've said to me, I feel really awkward saying, look, I've got to go. And I turn it around and say, look, change it. So I was like, I know you're probably really busy and you probably got to go, so I'll leave you to it. And you just reminded me of that when you said that. So and that way it makes them feel like you're respecting them and their time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And tell them that you really enjoy talking to them.
Oh, of course.
You know, close it, because my mom said something, and she said, and this is really, really true. She's 92. She had me older in life. She said, you never know when what you say to somebody is going to be the only kind word they've heard that whole month, or maybe that quarter or that year. You can be that person that you just think it was nothing and you just said it in passing, like you showed up to the neighborhood. Maybe somebody has never done that and that may be the first neighborhood. I remember one time when I was working in the hospital, and I really don't remember the guy's name, not because I didn't like him, but because it would just happen so quick and then he was gone. But he came up to me and he said, and I didn't usually work in that hospital, and I was filling in as an administrator, and he came by in passing and he goes, Miss Hawker. And I'm like, yeah. And I didn't remember him. And he said, you probably don't remember me. And I didn't. And this is powerful. And I said, oh, okay, well, remind me, and I'm thinking as an issue or something he wants me to help him with. And he said, you didn't know it. I get real emotional. He said, that day when you stopped to talk to me, I was going to kill myself. And I was like, and I standing and it was like, you talk about being present, Robin. Like, I just remember standing in the hospital, and it was like people were whooshing by me.
Yep.
And his words were coming so slow to me. And it was just phenomenal. And it was almost like an angel kind of thing. And he made that comment, and he said, because of what you said and how you showed all the good that I do, he goes, and now I've gone on, and he explained to me all the things that happened in his life. So back to my mom's comment, never underestimate, even if you're just taking 2 minutes to say something to somebody and say, hey, great job when you did that, or I saw that you held the door for that person, or when you spoke up in the meeting and you solved that thing that was really great. You may be the person that stops something. Isn't that incredible?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I was watching something the other day. I think it was Robin's podcast, actually, where somebody said that, a lot of people criticize others so frequently, and yet very rarely, point out the good that people do. And that you might be, like you say, the only person that's pointed out, hey, you're doing a really good job there.
I think it was Mark's Bowden's.
Yeah, I think it was actually. Yeah,
I got to meet him. We got to meet.
Yeah, it was compelling. It was, and that's the greatest thing when no matter what someone presents on the surface, when you take that second to be present and dive in, everyone has a compelling story everyone I talk to, everyone has a story that'll bring you to tears.
You okay, Elizabeth? I can't hand you a Kleenex. Look, I'm the wrong side of the pond.
But you hate to, I didn't want to leave on a low note. So this is a high note. I'm just saying, take my mom's advice and just realize you can really be that pearl that can just bring that light that people just so desperately need and stuff. And it sounds kind of like fairy dust. So, right? See, and that was hard fairy dust.
Don't sprinkle any more of it.
It's been very difficult for me to be all in with the bolt because
why? Okay, I'll start you then.
Yeah, I know. That just scared me. Something fell off the wall.
But seriously, so just be the better person. And also, if somebody's getting angry at you and yelling at you, customer service or something, here's another thing I found out too. And that was from my mom. And I found out later in many cases, it was very true. You don't know what that person's going home to.
No.
So they may not be giving you good customer service, or they may be horrible to you, but you don't know. They may be going home to a kid that's just like so sick, or a dying husband, or no heat.
And they're not doing it to you. They're just being who they are in the moment, and something triggered them.
So just
something triggered the pain.
Just kind of just say, hope your day gets better, and but be kind, because it's that, like you said, if you feel it and then you trigger it, you're not going to make it better and stuff. Because who wants to be known as the jerk that set off somebody, right?
Personal brand.
Yeah, imagine if little red Honda, if I was ready to kill somebody that day.
That's why I think you like Toyotas.
Well, yeah, I could have taken it. So. Well, it's such a pleasure being with you guys tonight. Is there anything else I can help anybody with? Any questions or?
Oh, we got to get going. Lena's got to get Catamaran going. Catamaran.
Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
This has been awesome, Elizabeth. It's really great conversation. The stories were amazing. Like, I had no problem just sitting back. I could have muted myself.
Well, we've gone over again, but thank you to everybody that joined us. Please hit the subscribe and the like. Check out Robin's podcast, especially the one with Mark where he said that about saying something nice. It's really, really great. Definitely worth checking out. Lena, Psychon, and you have a masterclass coming up soon as well, don't you?
Yes, the honest answers. Yeah, this is round 2. So it is it's open. Anybody can register now and go through it. And then the 4-hour live webinar, which let me tell you, went by with there it is. Went by in like a flash.
You should be able to find all the books like on a dime. Isn't that crazy?
I know. I love it.
Hey!
Oh my God!
And I thought I did good to get those behind me. I need the rest of y'all's. Good Lord.
They look good. I got to get now. I have to build up the library on the boat. I do have a library on the boat, but it's all fiction.
I like the sci-fi look though of the ship behind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is like all the controls and stuff, which I actually know how to work.
I'm not surprised. Hey, Gavin, I was trying to send you that link if I can get it to you, so everybody can get they'd like the complimentary thing. And like I said, I don't follow up and spam and stuff. That's not what that's for.
No problem. If you send it to me in Facebook Messenger or on Facebook Messenger or email would probably be the best, and I'll copy and paste it into the video description.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's very helpful. All right. God bless. Thank you for everybody.
Thank you, Elizabeth, so much.
A lot of fun. Stay well, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.